Hello everyone. Well, I had forgot to put in the stream code, so that is why the session was not going live. I'll do this again, right? Need not worry. Well, sorry for starting the session late. I hope now the session is visible to you guys, okay? So this is the daily news analysis which we analyze Indian Express newspaper on a daily basis, and this session goes out every day at 4 p.m. right? Now today is 30th of May and we are going to discuss important news and articles from the Indian Express newspaper. We'll start today's discussion by yesterday's left out article, which is oil spills, right? Because oil spill is a news because there is a fear that a ship that was capsized on the coast of Kerala, it might lead to, in some cases, of oil spill near the coast of Kerala. So naturally, authorities responded in kind in trying to prevent occurrences of oil spill, because we understand occurrences of oil spill will have implications on the local economy, will have implications on the local ecology, and this will be a kind of a disaster. So therefore, you need everything to prevent these kind of disasters from happening, and therefore, the relevant paper here is GS paper 3 because it deals with matters relating to disaster management. Okay, so this is the first article we are going to cover. Good evening, Mini, Augustine, Bhanu, Kaizen, Reshma, Yashi, Bhanu, Kanchan, Yashi, Ambedkarwadi. Well, Ambedkarwadi, sorry. Well, do let me know in the comments if you are able to hear me and watch this session. I'll continue, okay? Now, in the second article which we are going to discuss, this deals with a scheme bought by Government of India, and this is a central sector scheme, right? Now, the scheme actually provides for interest subvention to the farmers who takes loan under the Kisan Credit Card scheme. So, we'll understand Kisan Credit Card scheme, we'll understand how the interest subvention, which is a discount on the amount of interest that the farmers need to pay for the loans that they take under Kisan Credit Card, it is provided under this modified interest rate subvention scheme. So, we'll try to understand the scheme in detail in addition to understanding what is a Kisan Credit Card, okay? This again is relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, from economy section particularly, because it deals with a kind of financial support to the farmers, particularly to the agriculture sector. Okay, you're audible. I'm audible. Good. Now, in the third article, we'll be covering about India's ombudsman, which is an anti-corruption agency known as Lokpal. Now, Lokpal 2 days before gave a judgment favoring the approach of Mrs. Madhabi Puribuch, who was the former chairperson of SEBI. Now, there were allegations of corruption, there were allegations of quid pro quo against Mrs. Madhabi Puribuch, but the people who made the allegation, they failed to submit any proof highlighting their allegation, right? So, because of lack of proof, Lokpal said that the former chairperson of SEBI is not responsible, and it acquitted her from any charges of corruption. So, in that regard, the role of Lokpal in ensuring anti-corruption in India becomes important, and especially because Lokpal was a subject of a question this year's in Prelim. And we have already covered this topic, I guess, back in December or January. So you understand why such articles that appear in the newspaper are important, because many times questions are asked. So please do not forget to understand in detail how Lokpal functions, what are the composition of Lokpal, what kind of public authorities does Lokpal have jurisdiction to. All of this we'll cover in our today's discussion, and this is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective, right? In the fourth article, I'll be covering about the India's pension sector regulator, that is Employee Provident Fund Organization. Employee Provident Fund Organization manages a large corpus of fund which it collects from both public and private sector employees, and it provides them with a kind of financial security or a social security that people after retiring, they are able to get their pensions from EPFO. So that is why it plays an important role in ensuring financial inclusion in the country. So therefore, EPFO becomes important from our GS paper 3 perspective. So the relevant paper here again is GS paper 3. It ensures inclusive growth. In the fifth article, we'll be covering about Index of Industrial Production, which is an indicator necessary to understand whether our industrial sector is growing, stagnating, or reducing in its potential. So that is why index of IIP tells you the way growth in industrial sector works, similar to the way CPI tells you the levels of inflation in the country. Who publishes it? What are the different compositions of the sector given in IIP? All of this will cover in our today's discussion. Again, important from GS paper 3 perspective, right? And in the last article, we'll be covering about sodium ion batteries. Sodium ion batteries are a kind of batteries that are seen as a alternative to much famous lithium ion batteries. As you can understand, the cameras you're watching this session on, the mobile phones in my and your pocket, all of them are powered by lithium ion batteries. But the problem with lithium ion batteries is the supply chain of these batteries are concentrated only in a handful of countries. When it comes to deposits of lithium, they are located only in certain Latin American countries, whereas the manufacturing of these batteries almost invariably is controlled by China. So that is why you are not dependent on one country to source an important material in our modern day technology, and that is why countries are trying to develop alternatives for lithium ion batteries, and therefore sodium ion batteries are seen as one of the alternative. So we'll try to understand the latest technological developments in sodium ion batteries. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Because all of them are relevant from the science and tech perspective, which forms a part of GS paper 3, right? So these are the 6 articles that we are going to cover today. Good evening, Maheshwari, Sajeev. Good evening, Vidyut. Good evening, all of you. Right. Now, the notes for this session, as usual, will be available on my Telegram channel. This Telegram channel is called as ETS Live. Okay. So, what you need to do, go to the Telegram. On the top right hand corner, you'll see the search bar and click on that and enter ETS Live. You'll be able to find the channel. And still, for some reason, if you are not able to find the channel, this is the QR code which will take you directly to the channel. Subscribe to it and download the notes. Okay. Now, let us start our today's discussion with this first article. Dhakkan Babu, Namaste. This first article appeared 2 days before in the explain section, and today in this particular newspaper article, which is on the front page of today's newspaper. Now, basically, this article is talking about one incident that happened near the coast of Kerala. That is a capsizing of the ship. Okay. Now, let us understand the context of this article. Because of capsizing of a Liberian flagged MSC Elsa 3 ship, which was a 28-year-old vessel, it was sailing from port of Virinium in Thiruvananthapuram, and it was taking goods to port of Kochi in the Ernakulam, right? Now it capsized with around 25 kilometers southwest of another port of Kerala known as Alappuzha, right? Now, because of this capsizing of the ship and subsequently sinking of the ship, there are expectations that it might lead to a possible oil spill. And you can understand, because the ship was carrying many hazardous and dangerous chemicals like diesel, like different chemicals which I'll tell you. And because of this, there is an expectation that it might lead to marine pollution in the region. Now, ship, it went down with more than 600 containers, and some of these containers were having oil, diesel, hazardous oil, furnace oil, etc. But so far the good news is no oil spill has been reported. But it is better safe to be sorry. Therefore, Indian agencies, which includes Indian Coast Guard, they have initiated preemptive actions to deal with possible instances of oil spill, right? So in this regard, what is the challenges of oil spill? How you can prevent oil spill becomes important. So let us understand first what are the location we are dealing with in this news. Now, this ship was carrying goods from a Virinium port located in Thiruvananthapuram, and it was traveling to the coast of Kochi, which is in Ernakulam, right? But it capsized near the port and few kilometers away from the city of Alappuzha. Okay, so this is basically the entire coast of Kerala, and I've zoomed this map a little bit to highlight you the locations which are relevant from our today's discussion. Okay. Now, what you need to understand, some background about this issue. Now, the ship that is in question, MSC Elsa 3, it was carrying at least 85 metric tons of diesel and 367 metric tons of furnace oil, according to the Indian Coast Guard. And according to a simulation done by Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, INQA, located in Hyderabad, it showed that if all of the diesel and furnace oil which this ship was carrying, if it leaks into the sea, there is a high probability that those chemicals will drift towards the coast of Kerala, and the entire stretch that is between Alappuzha to the Thiruvananthapuram district could be affected. So, the affected area from this discussion is from Alappuzha to Thiruvananthapuram. Understood. I hope my Malayali pronunciation of Alappuzha is right. Anyone from Kerala watching this session, please let me know. Now, the background of this issue is that people or authorities, they are also concerned about other hazardous substances that were carried over the ship in question, because this ship, at least 12 containers were carrying a chemical known as calcium carbide, which is a toxic chemical that can form an explosive gas when it reacts with water, and these gases, they carry a health risk for humans and marine life. Okay, Sajeev, so my pronunciation of Alappuzha is correct, or am I wrong in this? Now, let us understand how can a oil spill affect the ecosystem of the area, right? Now, oil spill, it can damage the marine ecosystem first by leading to oil smothering. Oil smothering is when the coat of oil covers a marine organism and it could threaten the life and health of marine species and automatically impact the fish breeding in the region. Now, also it can result in death of fish and other organisms, therefore destroying not just the faunal health of the region, but also the floral health of the region, that is by damaging mangroves and coastal reefs which are available in the coastal areas, right? Now, if the oil spill, it takes place near the coast, it can also affect the livelihoods of fishermen and disrupt the local economy, because these fishermen depend automatically on catching the fishes. But if it leads to death of fishes, automatically the catch would be less, and this fish that will still be alive will not be fit for human consumption. So that is why it could disrupt the employment of fishermen, and it could automatically disrupt the local economy, including tourism, which depend a lot on these mangroves and coral reefs, right? So that is why it can affect economy, it can affect ecology, and it can affect the livelihoods of the people living in the region. Similarly, such spills are dangerous because oil, it is lighter than water, and therefore oil has a tendency to keep floating over the surface of the sea, and it leads to formation of a thin layer called as slick. Now, this layer called as slick, it spreads rapidly over the surface, as sometimes it is carried out by winds and sometimes by ocean currents, right? And most of the components of this spill oil, it remains suspended in the water for a long period of time, and therefore it can lead to long-term harmful effects on the ecology. And that is the reason why after an oil spill, the first reaction by the authorities, it should be to undertake cleanup, which requires human intervention, because you can't depend on machines to clean up a water body which is infinite, that is a sea, right? Now, let us understand how such oil spills have a unique aspect. Now, the oil spills, they are unique because it can be influenced by the nature and the chemical composition of the oil. Because diesel interacts differently with water, similarly furnace oil, it can interact differently with the water. So, before the process of cleanup begins, it is the responsibility of the authorities first to observe the color of the oil slick, which can be observed by understanding how the sunlight is reflecting from it. So, it might reflect different colors like black, rainbow, brown, or colorless, which will give authorities the idea what is the oil that has been spilled in the region, and accordingly they will indicate or they will begin their oil spilling containment measures. Now, let us understand how oil spills can be cleaned up. Now, cleaning process, first it begins with spreading of a pillow of what is known as oleophilic. Word here, philic, it means loving. Phobic means afraid. So, if any word is attached with philic, you can understand that is a loving component. So, oleo in Latin means oil. So, oil-philic automatically means oil loving or oil attracting. So, you require a material that absorbs the oil, which is an oleophilic material. And these are the first materials that are deployed on the site of oil spills. And these materials, they act like a sponge, and therefore they absorb oil and not water from the surface, and this helps the authorities to clean up the large portions of undivided oil spills, right? Similarly, authorities, they also use sheets which are made up of cotton or material which resembles cotton, and they are also deployed to absorb the leakages. Another method of removing the oil here is to use specialized motors which can actually pump out the water. However, what you need to remember that these motors are deployed more effectively when the spill happens over a calm water like a lake, not majorly over sea. So on sea, majorly you depend on these oleophilic materials which are oil loving or oil attracting materials to absorb the oil and not water, and then you throw off these deposits and dispose of quite nicely, okay? Now let us understand what may be the challenges that the authorities will face in case they are required to do cleanup. We all hope there is no cleanup required, because if no oil spill happens, it is good for everyone. But God forbid, if oil spills happen, it may lead to certain challenges also. First is the economic challenge, because you understand oil, it does not resolve in water, and you need to deploy a large amount of oleophilic materials, and that can prove very costly in terms of money. And this is also a labor intensive process which can sometimes even extend to months. So that is why first is the cost associated with these kind of cleanup. Another effect is the location based effect, because you understand the water bodies such as rivers and sea, it leads to perpetual flow of water, and therefore it can lead to challenges because the oil spill may spread over a larger region. Also, the third challenge is weather related challenge. What is the weather right now in Kerala? It is the monsoon season has arrived. We have already done a video on that, and because of this, the currents which flow towards the shore and the tides which flow towards the shore, these are on quite high levels, and therefore it can access the shore areas, which leads difficulty, and it can even lead to spread of oil spills towards the coastal areas, and therefore it will be quite difficult if God forbid this oil spill reaches the coast of Kerala, right? So these are the challenges that the authorities might face. Good evening, Baga. No problem if you're at work. Just watch the remaining sessions after the work, right? Now, this is the question that you need to attempt. Please try to attempt this question. I, however, will be unable to check this question because of my work commitments. But please do submit in the group, and I'll request other people who are in the group, please evaluate it. Similarly, you can get your answers evaluated by other people also. Right, so this is the question. Please try to take up this question and try to write this question. Writing the answers on a daily basis is a good habit, especially because only clearing prelims won't get you selected in UPSC. You also have to clear mains, and this is more difficult. That is why please try to attempt questions on a daily basis. Now moving to the next article. This article we have already done, right? We already covered what is MSP yesterday, but if you read the second half of the article, this talks about another aspect, that is, in a separate decisions. Along with this decision, the Union Cabinet, which was chaired by Prime Minister Modi, they approved continuation of the interest subvention component under the Modified Interest Subvention Scheme MISS, right? Now this is expected to continue, and the approval has been given by Union Cabinet. Now, this modified interest subvention scheme, here the short-term credit is provided to farmers at an affordable interest rate, which is provided through the measure or the instrument called as Kisan Credit Card. Understood? Sir, using oleophilic material is called as bioremediation. No. Oleophilic material, you use chemicals. Bioremediation is something which you use biological material. Suppose if you had used in grass, that would be called as bioremediation. If you had used certain kind of organisms like fungi, etc., that would have called as bioremediation. This is basically chemical remediation. Okay, Siraj, no problem. Humera Siraj, okay, no problem. So, before we need to understand what is the modified interest subvention scheme, we need to first understand how credit is provided through Kisan Credit Card, right? So, let us begin our today's discussion. Now, the Kisan Credit Card is basically a credit card which is given to farmers, which the farmers can use to take short-term loans, right? And this provides farmers with adequate and timely credit to utilize them in their farming and agricultural activities. Now, this credit card, Kisan Credit Card, was introduced during the time when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister and Mr. Yashwant Sinha was the Finance Minister. Now, this has proven to be quite revolutionary when it comes to dealing with agricultural credit, because the problem that the farmers face quite frequently is that they are not getting loans from the financial institutions like banks and NBFCs, and then therefore they are able to get loans only from informal sources. But the problem is that the informal sources of money lending, they charge a lot of interest on farmers. So government recognized this problem and introduced what is known as Kisan Credit Card. Now, the tenure and benefits of the loan is that it is a single window loan for maximum of 1 year period, and it provides a reduction of interest called as interest subvention and prompt repayment incentive also, which we'll all discuss in our today's video, need not worry. Now, the loans which can be extended to farmers are for different kind of farming activities. It is extended to individual farmers, joint borrowers who are owners and cultivators, and recently it has also been extended to people who are involved in animal husbandry, dairying and fisheries activities. So basically allied agricultural activities, they are also covered under the Kisan Credit Card. Similarly, tenant farmers, oral lessees, sharecroppers, they are also eligible, and people who are made themselves self-help groups, joint liability groups, including groups of tenant farmers, sharecroppers, they are also eligible to get loans from the Kisan Credit Card scheme. So we understood the eligibility criteria for farmers who are able to get loans, right? Now let us understand what kind of expenses can you use these loans for. Basically, I told you this is a loan which is provided for a short term basis, which is for a less than 1 year period, right? So only those kind of expenses that are short term in requirement can be done using these credit card. You can't use those expenses to create bigger infrastructure. You can't use those expenses to buy costly farming equipments like tractors, like other costly farming equipments, right? So this is the approach that you have to understand. Okay, now to meet short term credit requirements for cultivation of crops, these kind of activities are covered under the Kisan Credit Card loans. For example, farmers who take cultivation and post harvest expenses, like for cultivation they need to employ the services of farming labor, right? So to pay these labors, you can use the loans from Kisan Credit Card. To transport these goods from farmland to APMC mandis, you can use the loan. Similarly, for produce marketing loan, you can utilize the benefits of Kisan Credit Card. Suppose if you go to the market and you find out that the thing that you're selling in the market, that is currently at a very low price. So if you sell those, then only you will make a significant amount of loss. So to prevent those loss, what you do or what you decide to do is to store your item in a storage or a cold storage, but that would require some money that you have to give to cold storage people. So you can use that loan to pay for your storage requirements so that you can sell your produce at a later time when the price is good, right? Also, farmers have various personal consumption requirements. Suppose if the child of the farmer needs to go to college or needs to go to school and the farmer needs to pay for the fees, they can use the money under Kisan Credit Card to pay for the fees. Similarly, God forbid if the farmers have a health emergency in their family, they can pay the health expenses using those cards. So for personal consumption requirement also, farmers can use the loans under Kisan Credit Card. Also, farmers have many kind of farming equipment. Some farmers have tractors, some farmers have pumps, agricultural pumps, and you need to maintain those pumps by getting them serviced, getting them oiled. So the expenses that you require for maintenance of your farm assets, that can also be used through Kisan Credit Card loans. Also, farmers needs to invest for agricultural and allied activities. Suppose if a farmer is deciding to cultivate crops, now he wants to purchase 2 cows. So they can also get loans to buy cows, construct shed for these cows. So all these kind of activities, basically activities that require short-term credit, these are supplied through Kisan Credit Card. Any doubt in this? Otherwise, I'll move forward. Now let us understand what is modified interest subvention scheme. Now basically when you go to a formal credit institution and demand for a loan, these credit institution will say will charge you 10% interest rate, will charge you 7% interest rate, right? Which sometimes can be quite high. So what government has decided, they decided to offer these loans at a discounted interest rate. So this modified interest subvention scheme, it provides an interest subvention or an interest discount of 1.5% to banks who provide loans to farmers under the Kisan Credit Card, and this is available currently up till 3 lakh rupees of loan. So farmers who are getting loans up till 3 lakh rupees under the Kisan Credit Card, they will get an interest discount of 1.5%, which effectively makes the interest available to them at 7% interest rate. So suppose if they take loan of 3 lakh rupees, they are required to pay 7% interest rate. There are additional benefits also. Suppose if the farmer who has taken the loan and he repays back the loan before the deadline date, then he is eligible to get a further interest subvention of 3%, which effectively means that the farmers, if he makes the payment before the deadline, they will only be required to pay 4% interest rates to the bank. Understood how this interest subvention works? Basically, this is a discount on the interest that the farmers required to pay, and it incentivizes farmers also to pay those loans before deadline so that they get further discount, effectively meaning that farmers are only required to pay 4% interest rate because they are getting a first discount of interest subvention and further 3% interest discount on prompt repayment. And for farmers who are using these funds for animal husbandry or fishery activities, the benefit will be available up to the loans taken up till 2 lakh rupees. So what you need to remember, normal farmers, the benefit is up to available for loans up to 3 lakh rupees. For farmers who are employed in animal husbandry or fisheries, they can get the same benefits but for a lesser amount of loan, that is 2 lakh rupees. Understood? Now the benefit or significance of this Kisan Credit Card. I told you one of the biggest problems that the farmers faced was that they were not able to get loans from the banks. Therefore, by providing loans under Kisan Credit Card, it supports financial inclusion that over 7.75 Kisan or farmers, they have a Kisan Credit Card which provides them with affordable institutional credit, and therefore they are no longer dependent on informal money lenders. Similarly, it has increased the share of credit that is extended to agricultural sector, and automatically the loans taken by farmers in this regard can be invested in various agricultural activities, and this will overall promote the growth of India's agricultural sector, which till date provides employment to about 45.6% of our workforce, and therefore total agri credit in the last financial year has reached up to 25.49 lakh crore rupees. Similarly, to streamline the loan taking process and to streamline the discounts on the interest, that is interest subvention, the government of India brought Kisan portal, which enhances transparency and it streamlines the claims of subsidy for banks and for the farmers. And an important announcement was made in this year's budget, that is in budget 25-26, that Madam Finance Minister said that we plan to increase the loan limit under the Kisan Credit Card from 3 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees. But this even today has not been implemented. So please remember, this has not been implemented. Government is saying we will implement it at a later date, but this announcement was made in this year's budget by Madam Finance Minister. So even till today, the loan limit remains at 3 lakh rupees for normal farmers, and for allied activities like animal husbandry and fisheries, they can get loans up to 2 lakh rupees. And this modified interest subvention scheme is basically a central sector scheme. Central sector scheme means the whole funding for this interest subvention is provided by central government. Some state governments are providing additional benefits to the farmers, but this modified interest subvention scheme is a central sector scheme. Good evening, Rishi, very early. Any doubts? This is an important topic, that is why I am asking again and again. Any doubts? No problem, Rishi, I was just taunting you. Now let's see if you are able to solve this question. This appeared in 2020 prelims examination. I will remove the ticker so that you can see the last option. Well, now let's try to use common sense, okay? Sometimes, because if we forget the details or we forget the facts, common sense can be very helpful in the exam. Now, what did I tell you about Kisan Credit Card scheme? Kisan Credit Card scheme, I told you that it provides short-term credit support, right? So, from this large amount of money which you take, automatically those won't be short-term credit. How can a farmer repay, say, 20 lakh rupees loan? Not right. So you can eliminate those bigger expenses that the farmers needs to make. So suppose if a farmer is buying combine harvester, tractors and mini trucks, that would require loan of larger amount. So not applicable, not a short-term limit loan. Similarly, if they are required to construct family house or setting up of village and storage facility, that also requires large amount of money. Again incorrect. Working capital for maintenance of farm asset directly given there. Suppose you have a tractor and you require to get that tractor serviced. That comes under first. Similarly, consumption requirement of farm household. Suppose if a farmer has a daughter and he requires her to get married. So how will he bear the expenses? He can take loan under Kisan Credit Card. Right. So third is correct. Post harvest expense, right? Like paying salaries to laborers, paying the fees for transport, all of this is covered under post transport expense, right? So 1, 3, 4 are correct. Option B is the right answer. So that's how sometimes even common sense can help you in the prelims examination, even if you don't know the exact facts. I'm not saying don't remember the facts, I'm saying just in case. Now, Kisan Credit Card is one of the options for which the farmers can get loans. What are the other options? We cover them in great detail in the agricultural lectures which take place in the foundation level batches, right? Right now, we are taking admissions for May morning batch. To take admissions for May morning batch, which will close today, what you need to do, go to our website. First, you will be needing to log in by creating or adding your mobile number. Then what you will require to do is click on Explore Courses. Once you click on Explore Courses, the upper tile actually tells you what kind of language you want to take your education in. And suppose someone from South, someone from Northeast or from any part of the country, if you're not comfortable with Hindi or not comfortable with bilingual language, we also provide you option with exclusive English batches under UPSC CSE English, right? So for that, what you need to do is click on the left tile here. This says Foundation 2026 May morning batch. Click on this. And right now you can see the course fees is 37,999. But I'll tell you a way where you can get admissions even on a discounted rate, discounts even on this amount, right? Click on buy now. When you click on buy now, here is an option to add promo code. Click on this and see here on the left, you are required to add a code. There must be a code flashing on the bottom half of your screen, right? Called as ATS Live. Write that ATS Live, okay? And when you write ATS Live, click on apply here. As soon as you click apply, see the discount of 7,000 rupees is now applied and the course fees for diamond falls from 37,999 to 30,999. Similarly, platinum also you're getting it at 27,500 and gold you're getting it at 16,999. The best part of these three courses is the diamond batch, and that is why I'm recommending you to use diamond batch only, and do not forget to apply the code ATS Live. Why diamond batch? I'm saying it to you because if you can see from this comparative chart, all the benefits of StudyIQ IS platform is applicable on diamond. Some are not available for gold and platinum, right? So that is why please choose accordingly. No force in that. But if you take my opinion, I'll suggest you to opt for diamond batch. Okay. Now let us move to the next article. This talks about Lokpal, as Lokpal has given a clean chit to Mrs. Madhabi Puribuch, who was the former chairperson of SEBI. And the Lokpal in its observation has said not even an iota of credible evidence has been supplied by people who made allegations against her. That is why this case prima facie shows that Mrs. Puri is not guilty. Okay. Now let us understand the context of this discussion. I told you not even a tittle of credible evidence is the word used by Lokpal, Justice, a former judge of Supreme Court, Justice Khanwilkar, which supported that the allegation made on former chairperson of SEBI did not hold accordingly in the Court of Anti-Corruption Ombudsman, that is Lokpal. And in the 3-year tenure of Mrs. Butch, who was the first woman chief of the SEBI, which ended on February the 28th, and at that tenure, she was under the cloud of allegations of wrongdoings, which included corruption, which included quid pro quo, etc. But these allegations have not been proven, and that is why the case has been dropped on her by Lokpal. So what becomes important on this discussion? Not the details relating to case, but the powers that the Lokpal has over the different public functionaries, right? So in this regard, let us understand what Lokpal actually does. Lokpal is basically an anti-corruption statutory body which was set up at a specific law which was created for its formation, known as Lokpals and Lokayukta Act 2013. Now you understand the timeline of this act. This act was actually passed after the agitation done by India Against Corruption, which was led by a very famous Marathi activist. I'm forgetting the name. Can anyone let me know? Just brain fade. Very famous person. Nana something. अरे यार ब्रेन फेड हो गया. Anna Hazare, yes, Anna Hazare, correct. Also Arvind Kejriwal was a part of it, including Kiran Bedi and many other people. Now, this body, it conducts inquiries and investigation into allegation of corruption against certain public functionaries. Who are certain public functionaries? I will let you know in our today's discussion, only need not worry. Now, the headquarters of Lokpal is in New Delhi, and this is an independent body, does not come under control of any Ministry of Government of India. Please remember it, okay? Now, let us understand what is the composition of Lokpal. Lokpal consists of chairperson and 8 members. So, chairperson plus 8, 1 plus 8. Now, the chairperson, according to the Lokpal Act, needs to be a former Chief Justice of India or at least a former judge of Supreme Court or even an eminent person who has an impeccable integrity and outstanding ability can be the judge or can be the chairperson of a Lokpal, right? Now, it includes maximum of 8 members and out of which 50% at least should be the judicial members. The judicial members of Lokpal should either be a former judge of Supreme Court or a former Chief Justice of High Court. Similarly, a minimum of 50% of the members needs to come from scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBC, minority and women. So, these are 2 criteria you need to fulfill in appointment of 8 members. And the minimum age of a Lokpal chairperson or even the members needs to be at least 45 years of age. So, you can't be a member of Lokpal if you are 44 years old or below, right? Now, let us see how the members are appointed. It is actually the President of India who appoints the chairperson and members of Lokpal, but this does not come under the discretionary power of the President of India. Rather, President of India makes this appointment only after recommendation of names by a selection committee, and this selection committee comprises of Prime Minister of India who acts as a chairperson, and the members of this selection committee include Speaker of Lok Sabha, Leader of Opposition of Lok Sabha, Chief Justice of India and one eminent jurist who will be nominated by the President on the recommendations of chairperson and other members of selection committee. And the tenure on which these members serve in office, that they serve in Lokpal for 5-year term or until they attain the age of 70 years. So, whichever is earlier, this will end their tenure in Lokpal. So, please remember, they are appointed by President of India on the recommendation of a selection committee, and these are the members of selection committee. Now, the best part of Lokpal is the jurisdiction of Lokpal. Now, you can understand from this table, what I'll tell you, that the jurisdiction of Lokpal is quite wide. It can inquire into allegations of corruption against anyone who is or has been a Prime Minister of India. See, it can even investigate Prime Minister of India. It can even investigate ministers of Union Government, Member of Parliament, as well as officials in the Union Government under Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. So, any official in Government of India, be it IAS, IPS, IFS or any lower level employee also, they can be investigated, and the best part is it can even investigate Prime Minister, ministers in Union Government and MPs for any corruption activities. In addition to that, it also covers chairperson, members, officers and directors of any board, corporation, society, trust or autonomous body which is established by an act of parliament or is wholly or fully funded by either union or state government. So, that is why a chairperson of SEBI is a statutory body appointed or formed as per a law passed by Indian Parliament. That is why they investigated the former chairperson of SEBI. It also says who is or has been the member, right? So, you need to remember even the former members can be investigated by the Lokpal, and it also investigates members of any society, trust or body that receives foreign contribution every year at least 10 lakh rupees. So, therefore, the jurisdiction you can understand of Lokpal is quite wide. But when it can allege or investigate any issue of wrongdoing by Prime Minister, and Prime Minister is head of Indian government, so you need to make certain guidelines or criteria or safeguards so that it can't just investigate Prime Minister on any allegation made in political context. So, the Lokpal Act also provides certain kind of safeguards for Lokpal in case they are going to investigate Prime Minister of India or a former Prime Minister of India. Now, Lokpal and Lokayukta's Act includes several safeguards for Prime Minister regarding investigation, and these safeguards are basically aimed to protect the Prime Minister from undue interference in his or her work and ensure a fair process of trial against the Prime Minister. First, if you are going to investigate the case against Prime Minister, you need the approval of entire bench of Lokpal. That is, every member has to approve, then only the investigation against the Prime Minister for any corruption case will begin. Similarly, this inquiry that will happen will be done on camera, and any inquiry against Prime Minister must be held in a private sitting without access to public. But you have to record all those proceedings on camera. And in case if you don't find any wrongdoings of corruption done by Prime Minister, then you'll have to delete this footage, right? Please remember these kind of. Similarly, you can't investigate issues of corruption against Prime Minister in certain areas which is related to international relations, external or internal security matters, public order, or even atomic energy and space. So these areas are excluded. You can conduct an inquiry, but for that you need full approval by the Lokpal's bench. And you can conduct this inquiry in private without public access, but you have to record those inquiry. And if you don't find any truth to the allegations made, then you'll have to delete the video. So this is certain safeguards provided because the office of Prime Minister is very important, and you need not provide any interference in the work, and you need also to ensure fairness, because Prime Minister is not just a politician, he is also the head of government, and stability of government is very important. Understood? Now, other powers of Lokpal, it includes power for superintendents, and also it can give directions to CBI on any case which the Lokpal is investigating. Also, it has a separate inquiry wing which is vested with powers of a civil code, which means Lokpal can issue notices, can summon anyone and conduct hearing to investigate the cases. Similarly, Lokpal also has the power to confiscate assets, proceed, receipt and benefit that may have been procured by using money collected from corrupt activities, right? And Lokpal also has a power to recommend the transfer or suspension of any public servant who is connected with the allegations of corruption. And it also has power to give directions to prevent destruction of records during the occurrences of inquiry. So that is why powers of Lokpal is quite significant, which makes this body a very effective body. Understood? Now let's see if you are able to solve this prelims question which appeared this year only, right? Now the space was limited, that is why I have put all these options in one line. But as you can understand, there are 4 statements in this question. Quickly. Lydia, long time. Well, power of Lokpal applies to public servants of India, but not to Indian public servants posted outside. This is incorrect. What about an IFS officer posted in US? Lokpal has jurisdiction over them. So first statement is incorrect. Second statement, the chairperson or a member shall not be the member of parliament or a member of legislature of any state or union territory. This first part is correct. And only the Chief Justice of India, whether incumbent or retired, has to be the chairperson. This is incorrect. I told you, judges of Supreme Court also, retired judges of Supreme Court can also be an eminent person, can also be the chairperson of Lok Sabha. Chairperson of Lokpal. So second statement is incorrect. Third, the chairperson or member shall not be a person of less than 45 years of age on the date of assuming office as chairperson or member, as the case may be. This is correct. Lokpal cannot inquire into allegation of corruption against a sitting Prime Minister of India. This is incorrect. I told you they can inquire into allegations of corruption even against Prime Minister, but with certain safeguards. So all the statements except 3 are correct, and therefore option A is your right answer. All of you have gotten this right. Yes. I hope you are covering it, Lydia. If you can't attend it live, it's fine. I hope you are covering the videos on a daily basis. No backlog. Okay. Now let's see if you are able to solve another question. Sarang, hadbad ka kaam, gadbad ka. There is a popular saying in Hindi, if you do something quickly, there's a chance that it might go wrong. Yes, right, because you have to identify error, not correct statements. This kind of questions are asked in exam. This year also, few questions were asked saying not correct. So first is a correct statement, second incorrect because it has jurisdiction over Prime Minister. Lokpal also has a jurisdiction over Group A and Group B officers. So statement 3 also incorrect. 2 and 3 are incorrect. Option B is your right answer because it asks you to identify not correct. Understood, Sarang? And also please inculcate the habit of reading questions carefully. You don't have to answer it first, but you have to answer it correctly. That is what is required, okay? Now moving to next article, this talks about higher pensions application have been rejected and this has been investigated by EPFO. This article actually appeared in yesterday's newspaper. So let us understand the context first, right? Now the Employee Provident Fund Organization EPFO's head office has written to its field offices flagging the exceptionally high rejection of application vis-a-vis issuance of demand letters in case of pension cases, right? Now in the letter, EPFO's head office has stated that it has received numerous grievances from retired officers who have their pensions pending or deposited with EPFO and they are not getting this pension. And this can be quite problematic because retired people, they only depend on pensions to earn their or to maintain their livelihood. They are not getting the salaries because they have retired from the job, and therefore EPFO must do everything to expedite this process and not reject those applications on flimsy ground. So this is basically the subject of article. But what becomes important is the role of EPFO in ensuring social security in India. Now it is one of the world's largest social security organization in terms of the accounts that it has and the volume of financial and the money transaction that it conducts every day, right? Similarly, it came into existence back in 1951 by an ordinance passed by then government led by Pandit Nehru. Now it was replaced by an act in 1952 and this act now is referred to as Employees Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952, which extends to entire India, right? Now similarly, the act and schemes which are framed under or are managed by EPFO, they are managed particularly by Central Board of Trustees. Now Central Board of Trustees of the EPFO, it is a tripartite board which includes membership from EPFO, from government and from private companies, right? Similarly, it also employs Employees Provident Fund. So whenever you are going into service now, be it public or private, a part of your salary will be taken off. Similarly, a part of that amount of salary will be deposited by company into a separate bank account which is managed by EPFO, and you're eligible to get those money only after you attain 60 years of age. So this particularly will act as a pension for both central and state government employees and even private sector employees. And the Central Board of Trustees of EPFO, it manages 3 schemes: EPF scheme 1952, pension scheme 1995 and a insurance scheme, EDLI scheme, right? And the ministry under which EPFO functions is the Ministry of Labour and Employment. Any doubt? Let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. Well, EPFO is a statutory body under Ministry of Labour and Employment. Done, correct. It manages Employee Provident Fund, which is mandatory for employees working in public and private sectors. Well, this actually is incorrect. Why it isn't it mandatory for every employee? Because the law states that only those companies which employ at least 20 people, only those are required to deposit money in EPF. Suppose if you start a company, a startup which employs 10 people only, then you are not required to give EPF for your employees, right? Similarly, EPFO oversees scheme like Employee Pension Scheme, Employee Deposit Insurance Scheme. This is a correct statement. So first and third are correct, second is not, and option C is your right answer. Understood why D isn't correct? Now it's 4:57, but what the hell, I started this session late, so let us do one more article. Now this talks about industrial output. It has slowed to 8-month low in the month of April, right? Now, this article also appeared in yesterday's newspaper, but yesterday newspaper we were dealing with so many economy articles, so I thought let us leave something for today. So let us do the IIP article. Now, this talks that India's industrial production growth, which is measured by Index of Industrial Production (IIP), it marginally dropped to 2.7% in April from 3% in March, and this was according to a data released by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Now, if you go and read this article fully, you will witness two important terms. One is known as use-based classification, and another term is sector-specific classification. So what are these two terms? I will let you know in our today's discussion, need not worry, okay? Now first let us understand what is IIP. It basically is an index which measures changes in the industrial production in an economy. So it will tell you a figure which you can estimate to highlight whether my industrial sector is growing or it is contracting, right? And the base year for this calculation, like many other indexes, is 2011 and 12. What is the base year for CPI and what is the base year for WPI? Let me know in the comments quickly. Now, this index is compiled and published by National Statistical Office, and it functions under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. And I told you there is a separate entity known as Index for Core Industries. Index for Core Industries, which forms a 40.6% part of IIP. It is not published by NSO. Rather, this is published by Office of Economic Advisor under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, right? So this is what you need to remember. And the IIP is compiled from data received by source agency, which in turn receives this data from different commercial entities and establishments, right? Well, WPI it's 2011-12, same as IIP, but for CPI it's 2012. Please remember it, okay? Now let us understand the term sectoral classification and use-based classification. You can see from the table on my left, it states first sectoral classification. Basically, there are three sectors which are estimated in IIP: mining, manufacturing and electricity. The largest weightage is given to manufacturing, which has more than 77.6% weightage, followed by mining, and last is electricity. So basically, sectoral classification, there are three sectors. Another is the use-based classification. Here, different kinds of goods are classified in terms of the goods: primary goods, intermediate goods, capital goods, infrastructure construction goods, consumer durables and consumer non-durables. What you need to remember, highest weightage is given to primary goods, followed by intermediate goods, followed by consumer non-durables. This is only what you need to remember. Don't go and mug the entire table, okay? Yes, Bhanu, you are correct. Understood? So this is basically the difference between sectoral classification and use-based classification. Any doubt? If you don't have any doubt, let's see if you are able to solve this question. Again, you have to identify incorrect statements. So first, it measures changes in volume of industrial production in 8 core industries only. Incorrect. It is compiled and published every month by Office of Economic Advisor, Ministry of Commerce Industry. Incorrect, I told you. National Statistical Office under MOSPI gives this index. Third, it gives highest weightage to manufacturing sector in the sectoral classification. This is correct. 77.6% is the weightage. So first and second are incorrect, and we have to identify incorrect statement. Sorry. Right. So option B is your right answer. Sarang, again, hadbad ka kaam, gadbad ka. No problem. Just remember to reread the questions again and again. That can be the difference between you getting selected or not selected, right? So now it's 5-1. I have other commitments also. Let's end our session here. One article is remaining. We will do it tomorrow. Need not worry. ATS Live is the channel where you will get the notes. Go and subscribe to it if you still haven't. Okay. So this is all from my side. We'll see each other again tomorrow. Please have a very good day.